Hi guys. Tonight we begin somewhere before the idea of night even existed. You stand at the edge of a world without fire, without houses, without the comfort of knowing what waits in the dark. The stars spill across a sky so thick with light it almost hums, and every shadow could be a predator. You probably will not survive this, at least not if you wander too far from the others. But that is what makes this moment real. It is raw, cold, and full of the heartbeat of everything that came before us. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you are and what time it is as you listen. Now, dim the lights. You take a slow breath. The air tastes like rain on dust, mixed with the faint metallic scent of stones rubbed together. Around you, the planet is still new, wild, and utterly indifferent. There are no walls, no light bulbs, no buzzing alarms, just the night sky and the sound of your own breathing, the whisper of wind brushing tall grass. This is what sleep looked like for your earliest ancestors, millions of years before the first beds, before the first stories told by firelight. You crouch beneath a low tree, feeling the uneven ground against your legs. The earth is damp and cool, a soft cradle that shifts with every heartbeat. You listen. Far away, a branch snaps. The instinct that still lives inside your modern brain tells you to stay alert, to freeze and wait. Sleep, in this world, is a dangerous luxury. Back then, your kind shared this landscape with big cats, giant snakes, and things that moved silently enough to make the hair on your arms stand up. Yet even in that danger, something inside every living thing needed to rest. You imagine the first humans curling their bodies into the same shapes as the apes from whom they descended, knees tucked up, arms wrapped close, sleeping in bursts instead of long stretches. It was not peaceful in the way you imagine, but it was deeply connected to the pulse of nature. The rhythm of the world controlled everything. The sun fell, and darkness came not as an option but as an absolute. There was no way to fight it, no switch to flip, no blue screen glowing back at you. The body learned to yield, to slow, to drift. This surrender to darkness was the original wisdom of rest. A mainstream fact whispers through the night. Scientists studying modern hunter-gatherer tribes like the Hadza of Tanzania discovered that their sleep patterns are shorter but steadier, lasting about 6 or 7 hours with minimal interruption, and that they almost never suffer from insomnia. Their lives are shaped by daylight, not by clocks. They fall asleep when the world dims and wake when it brightens. There is something perfect in that simplicity. You can almost see them, a circle of people beneath the stars, their bodies glowing faintly in the reflected moonlight. The youngest lie close to their parents, heads resting against soft bundles of fur. An elder murmurs a low sound, a hum, maybe a half-remembered melody that carries just far enough to keep everyone anchored. The fire has not yet been invented, but there are still embers of warmth in the closeness of bodies. A fringe detail, half lost in anthropology, suggests that before fire, some species of early humans may have chosen to sleep in trees, their bodies adapted to balance even as they dozed. You picture it, a slow sway of branches, the creak of wood, the soft exhale of breath in rhythm with the wind. It sounds impossible, yet maybe that rocking motion is why you still fall asleep easier in a moving car or a hammock. Historians still argue whether these early sleepers were fully aware of the stars above them. Did they recognize the constellations as fixed, or did the sky shift too slowly for pattern to exist in their memory? The question lingers like mist, unresolved but beautiful. Maybe those ancient eyes simply saw the stars as eyes themselves, watching protectively from far away. You reach out and touch the ground again. The soil feels alive, buzzing faintly with the weight of insects and roots beneath the surface. You realize how far modern humans have drifted from that texture, that sound. The hum of electricity replaced the hum of earth. The soft chirp of night animals became the static hiss of air conditioning. But here, in this imagined prehistory, the quiet is enormous. It presses gently against your ears until all you can hear is your own pulse. Sleep comes not as a command, but as a tide. You feel your eyelids grow heavy because there is nothing to do but rest. You have eaten. The air is cool. The stars do not blink. They just burn softly above you. Your muscles loosen because survival depends on being strong when the sun rises. It is not relaxation the way we think of it, but a kind of physical surrender. The body collapses, resets, and trusts the others nearby to stay alert in turns. In the distance, the cry of an animal cuts through the dark. You stir, but the sound fades quickly. The body's ancient chemistry knows when danger is real and when it is only wind. Adrenaline lowers, breathing evens again. You drift deeper. Imagine this: your modern mind, tangled in deadlines and phone screens, being slowly rewired to this rhythm. It would take days, maybe weeks, but eventually your inner clock would stop chasing minutes and start following shadows instead. You would wake with the light, not from an alarm, and sleep again when the air cools and darkness returns. It is strange to think that prehistoric people may have slept better than most of us do now. Their rest was unbroken by stress about tomorrow. They had no mortgages, no traffic, no glowing notifications. Their world was full of danger, yes, but it was danger they could see and smell and run from, not the invisible kind that hums through Wi-Fi signals and deadlines. The night deepens. The stars move imperceptibly across the sky, and your body moves with them. You feel the weight of time pressing softly against you, like the slow turning of the planet. Every breath is a reminder that this ancient peace still exists somewhere inside you, buried under the hum of your modern life. You close your eyes. The darkness feels warm now, not threatening. Your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of crickets and rustling leaves. Somewhere nearby, another human sleeps, their breath rising and falling in quiet sync with yours. You are not alone. You are part of something older than memory itself. Tomorrow, fire will arrive and change everything. But for now, you rest in the raw, untouched dark of the world before light, before story, before fear had a name. The night holds you gently, like the earth remembering the shape of your body. You wake slowly to the first crack of sound in the distance. It is the scrape of two stones meeting, and for the first time in history, the dark world begins to change. You blink in the half-light, watching a spark leap, hover, and fade. Then another. The smell of smoke creeps into your nose, unfamiliar yet comforting. You do not know it yet, but this smell will follow humanity forever. The first fires are being born, and with them, the beginning of safe sleep. You move closer, feeling the warmth touch your face. The others gather too, forming a ring of glowing eyes. The fire pops, sending up sparks like small stars. It hisses softly, eating at the kindling, and a faint orange halo spreads across the faces around you. For the first time, the night no longer belongs entirely to predators. The flames are hypnotic. They breathe, sway, and whisper like a living thing. Someone tosses in more sticks. The crackle deepens and everyone sighs without realizing it. Heat slips into tired muscles. The ground beneath you feels less threatening. In that moment, the human world divides into two kinds of night, the one before fire and the one after. A mainstream historical fact flickers with the flames. Archaeologists at Wonderwork Cave in South Africa found evidence that early humans controlled fire nearly 1 million years ago. Ash layers, burned bones, and stone tools all tell the same story. That single discovery meant protection, light, and most of all, rest. Fire changed what it meant to sleep. Before this, every sound in the dark could have been the last thing you heard. Now, the soft roar of the fire becomes a lullaby. Its light pushes shadows farther away. Faces glow gold instead of fearfully pale. The circle of people grows closer, drawn not just by heat but by comfort. Safety, at last, has a scent: wood smoke and ash. You lie back and watch the flames through half-closed eyes. The warmth moves across your skin. deeper than sunlight. A curious thought enters your mind. Maybe this is what trust feels like for the first time in human history. To close your eyes knowing that the fire stands guard while you rest. A fringe idea whispers through anthropology circles. Some researchers think that staring into fire could have helped develop the meditative focus that shaped human thought. The gentle rhythm of flickering light may have trained our ancestors' brains to slow down, to dream, and to imagine. In that sense, fire was not just for cooking food, it may have cooked the mind itself. Historians still debate whether fire was first tamed by accident or intention. Did lightning strike a dry tree and leave behind a miracle? Or did someone, desperate and curious, learn through endless trial and error how to feed a spark until it lived? The truth may be lost to time, but the result remains in every candle and every hearth since. You stretch your legs closer to the warmth. The air feels thicker now, heavy with the smell of resin and char. Someone nearby hums quietly, their voice rising and falling in rhythm with the flames. You realize how sound itself becomes different in firelight, softer, rounder. Each note dances in the air and fades into smoke. The fire also changes the night's colors. Shadows become gold-edged. The dark no longer swallows everything, but instead folds gently into the background. Above you, stars still shimmer, but their authority is weaker now. Humanity has made its own light, and even the constellations must share the sky. You watch a young child fall asleep beside their mother, the fire painting orange patterns on their faces. Sleep now comes not from exhaustion or safety in numbers, but from warmth, comfort, and rhythm. The gentle crackle replaces the rustle of wind. For the first time, dreams arrive easily. As you close your eyes, your thoughts slow, and the fire's movement seeps into your breathing. The crack of sap echoes faintly like a heartbeat. This, perhaps, is the beginning of storytelling. Soon these people will gather around the fire, not just for heat, but to speak, to share, to remember. The flickering shadows will teach them how to imagine. It is strange to realize that your modern relaxation, candlelight, campfires, fireplaces, all trace back to this same instinct. You sit before controlled danger and let it calm you. The fire holds your attention just enough to silence the endless chatter of thought. Maybe you have always known how to be still. You just forgot. A new rhythm of night emerges. Some people sleep while others tend the flame. The group becomes a breathing organism, awake and resting in turns. The watchful ones poke the embers, add dry branches, and hum low songs that keep both animals and nightmares at bay. Even the stars seem to lean closer, their reflections flickering in eyes half closed with peace. You imagine waking in the middle of the night. The fire has burned low, but it still glows. The world smells of smoke, and you hear someone shift beside you, mumbling softly in their sleep. There is comfort in that sound. You realize that this is where the idea of home begins, not walls or roofs, but shared safety. In your modern life, you can light a flame with the press of a switch, yet the peace it once gave has thinned. You chase warmth through screens and schedules, forgetting that your body still remembers the language of fire. That small pulse of orange light still stirs something deep inside you. The ancient self sighs and relaxes, whispering, "You are safe now. You can rest." A soft wind moves through the clearing, carrying the last curls of smoke upward. Sparks drift into the night like tiny, glowing insects. Somewhere in the darkness, a predator watches but does not come closer. The fire has changed the balance of the world. For the first time, humans own a piece of the night. You lie back again, hearing the faint pop of wood, the murmur of breathing, the hush between sounds that makes everything seem endless. The world turns slowly above you, and your eyelids grow heavy. The last thing you see before sleep takes you is the pulse of flame, reflecting in someone's eyes a shared heartbeat, a reminder that even in the wildest dark, warmth can be made. You drift, wrapped in the oldest kind of comfort. Fire keeps watch. The stars blink slowly overhead, and for the first time in all of human history, The night feels like a friend. The cave breathes around you. It smells of damp stone, smoke, and old air that has been trapped for centuries. You step inside slowly, one foot pressing into soft dust that has not been disturbed in years. The firelight flickers across the walls, and shapes begin to appear. Hands, animals, lines that spiral into nothing. You realize you are surrounded by the earliest traces of imagination. The cave is not just a shelter now. It is a mind made of rock. You move closer to the painted wall. The colors are earth and blood, ash and clay. Someone, tens of thousands of years ago, crouched here with a handful of crushed pigment and decided to make time visible. Every stroke tells you something that words had not yet been invented to say. You can almost hear their breath as they worked, steady and slow. The cave echoes softly with their memory. According to archaeological evidence gathered from sites such as Chauvet and Lascaux, humans were creating cave art as early as 30,000 years ago. These paintings were not random decorations. They were part of something much deeper. Many researchers believe that the act of painting was tied to ritual, storytelling, or even the preparation for dreams. The cave, cool and quiet, became both a temple and a bedroom for the mind. A curious note recorded by anthropologists tells of ancient people who sometimes slept inside these caves not for comfort, but for meaning. They believed that dreams born under painted ceilings carried messages from the animals themselves. Imagine lying beneath a swirl of ochre horses, eyes half open, drifting between worlds as the smell of pigment and smoke settles into your lungs. The exact purpose of these paintings still stirs debate among scientists and historians. Some see them as sacred art. Others suggest they were the earliest calendars or hunting guides. And a few daring voices propose that these images might have been created during trance states, perhaps induced by rhythmic drumming or flickering firelight. The truth remains hidden in shadow, much like the caves themselves. You sit against a cold wall, feeling the stone pull the heat from your back. The sound of dripping water echoes somewhere deep inside. Every drop lands with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Your breathing slows until you can almost feel the pulse of the mountain itself. Here, silence is not empty. It is thick, like velvet, wrapping around your body and softening every thought. As your eyes adjust, you notice how the light changes the drawings. The fire makes them move. The bison seem to run. The handprints tremble slightly. You realize that the artists knew this. They painted in the flicker, not in stillness. They made motion before motion pictures. The walls became a living story, told through flame and sleep. One rarely mentioned observation from studies of early caves notes that the acoustics inside certain chambers are extraordinary. When someone spoke or sang, the echoes multiplied and danced back, creating a sound like many voices at once. Some researchers believe that prehistoric people chose specific chambers for sleeping and painting because of this resonance. It made them feel surrounded, protected, even when alone. You press your hand to the wall. The stone is cool, rough, unyielding, yet you can feel the weight of thousands of nights like this one. People huddled close, resting between hunts, whispering in the dark. Maybe they dreamed of the animals above them. Maybe they dreamed of becoming them. The boundary between waking and sleeping was thinner here than anywhere else. Outside, the world was harsh and unpredictable. Inside, the cave offered constancy. The rock did not change. The temperature stayed steady. It was a womb of earth. You can see why prehistoric people trusted these spaces with their most fragile moments of rest. In the half-darkness, surrounded by the ghosts of painted beasts, the human mind could wander safely. The soft hum of the fire fills the air again. Smoke drifts toward the entrance, curling upward into the night. Someone murmurs a sound that could be a prayer or a lullaby. It is impossible to tell the difference. Both are ways of asking the world to be kind while you sleep. The more you look, the more you see that stillness itself was an art form here. Sleep was not rushed or forced. It arrived naturally, as part of the rhythm of existence. The people of this age did not battle restlessness or chase productivity. Their time belonged to the cycle of day and night, hunger and satisfaction, wakefulness and surrender. You close your eyes again, leaning against the wall. The rock is unforgiving, but it feels solid, eternal. Somewhere deep in the cave, water continues to drip, steady and patient. Your breathing falls into the same pattern. For a moment, you forget your modern world entirely. There are no alarms here, no screens, no endless lists, only stone, warmth, and sleep. As you drift, an image from the painted ceiling stays behind your eyelids, a running horse, its mane flickering in the firelight. You sense what those ancient artists must have felt, that sleep and dreaming were not escapes from life, but extensions of it. The dream was simply another kind of seeing. When you finally fall asleep, it is the kind of rest that feels like being swallowed gently by the earth. The air is cool, the darkness absolute. Your last thought before drifting away is that these caves still exist, still holding the memory of 1,000 ancient breaths. Somewhere in that deep silence, the first dream of humanity still stirs. The air outside the cave feels different now. It tastes lighter, fresher, touched by the scent of grass and wet leaves. You walk across a clearing, and your feet sink slightly into the ground, soft from the previous night's dew. The sun has not yet risen fully, but a faint silver glow spills over the trees. This is where the next part of the story begins, where humans start learning from the creatures they share the world with. Before houses, before even permanent camps, people watched how animals slept. They saw that some curled up in the high branches, rocking gently with the wind. Others dug shallow hollows in the earth and lined them with leaves. A few, like lions or wolves, rested together for safety and warmth. Humans learned by imitation. They built their first beds, not from invention but from observation. Archaeological findings from sites in South Africa suggest that humans were crafting grass-lined sleeping platforms at least 200,000 years ago. Layers of plant material mixed with traces of ash hint at deliberate construction, not random debris. The grass softened the ground, kept insects away, and made the sleeping space smell clean. Imagine lying on that bed, the fragrance of crushed herbs rising with every breath, the body easing into the shape of the earth. A small but fascinating note from primate research adds another layer to this story. Great apes, like chimpanzees and gorillas, build new nests each night by bending branches into careful patterns. Their nests are sturdy, elevated, and surprisingly comfortable. Scientists have even found that apes sleep more deeply when their nests are well made, much like humans with a fresh bed. It makes you wonder whether our species' love for clean sheets and plumped pillows began in those same treetops. Some experts continue to debate how often early humans actually slept above ground. Did they prefer branches like their ape cousins? Or did they risk the forest floor for the sake of warmth and stability? There are no definite answers, only hints left behind in fossilized soil and scattered bone fragments. What is certain is that these choices shaped not just comfort but evolution itself. Sleep was survival. You picture yourself lying in one of those nests. The branches cradle your back. The air moves softly through the leaves. The smell of green life is everywhere. Below you, insects hum like a faint lullaby. Every sound feels alive but distant. You can rest without fear of snakes or prowling animals. You are suspended between earth and sky, safe in a bed built by instinct. The experience changes how you think about sleep. You begin to realize that resting well was once an act of intelligence, not indulgence. To find the right materials, the right position, the right distance from danger required observation and memory. In a world without mattresses, every good night's sleep had to be earned. Later, as people moved to open plains, they adapted again. The treetop beds became mounds of grass or shallow pits lined with leaves. These weren't random piles. Some were arranged in circular patterns, almost like tiny nests within larger communities. When you lie down in one of these, the ground molds itself to your body, a primitive version of what would someday be called ergonomic design. There is a small peculiar detail uncovered in a few ancient settlements. People sometimes burned aromatic plants near their sleeping areas. The smoke kept insects away, but it also released calming scents. Wild basil, sage, and other herbs were common choices. Whether they knew it or not, they were inventing the first natural sleep aids. The air would have been filled with a mixture of warmth and spice, soothing the senses into rest. Even today, your body remembers this connection. You buy lavender oil, light candles, or play soft sounds to calm yourself before bed. But all of those are echoes of something much older. The rhythm of the natural world still whispers to your nerves, telling them when to quiet down. The sun climbs higher now, filtering through the trees. Shadows stretch and fold around the nests. Some of the group are already awake, stretching slowly, their hair glinting with dew. Others still lie half asleep, eyes fluttering in dreams. It is easy to imagine their thoughts perhaps of running, of fire, of animals seen and admired. The mind at rest was always a place of motion. You watch a mother carefully gathering new grass, replacing the old bedding for the coming night. The act is small, almost invisible, but deeply tender. She smooths it down, checks for insects, arranges a few leaves near her child's spot. In that simple gesture, the concept of care becomes visible. Sleep is no longer only about surviving until dawn. It is about comfort, family, continuity. Your modern world has memory foam and pillows filled with air, yet the intention is the same. You still crave softness, safety, and warmth. The body may have evolved, but its desires are ancient. The smell of fresh grass or clean linen is the same kind of invitation, a message that says, you can rest now. The wind picks up. You feel it brush over your arms, cool and dry. It carries the faint hum of insects and the rustle of wings. Somewhere nearby, a group begins to gather food, while others pack their tools. The day's work starts slowly, but everyone knows that night will come again. They will rebuild their nests, settle in close, and drift together under the stars. Before you leave, you take one last look at the sleeping spots, each one unique yet similar. They are small circles of peace carved out of a vast, unpredictable world. You realize that sleep was humanity's first act of trust, a decision to close the eyes and believe that morning would return. Night falls again, but this time you are far from the caves and the green nests. The air here feels heavier, stretched across the vast plain. There is no fire tonight, no light except for the quiet shimmer of stars reflected on distant pools of water. The world is older than any calendar, and time itself does not yet exist in the way you know it. You walk through that darkness and realize that, for most of human history, people slept without clocks, schedules, or alarms. They slept when the world told them to. You tilt your head back and watch the sky. It looks endless. The stars do not sparkle like in pictures. They burn steadily, 1,000 silent fires in a black ocean. The moon has not risen yet, and so the world is full of shadows. You hear animals moving somewhere out there, soft steps, slow breathing, the occasional call echoing across the grasslands. Yet you feel calm. The darkness is not an enemy tonight. It is a signal. According to studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups such as the San of the Kalahari and the Hadza of East Africa, humans once slept in patterns guided entirely by natural light and temperature. When the heat of the day faded, the body cooled and began to shut down on its own. When dawn arrived, it stirred again. There was no sense of bedtime, only a gentle surrender to rhythm. One fascinating observation comes from scientists studying how the body reacts to total darkness. They found that after several days without artificial light, people begin to sleep in two distinct segments. They drift off for a few hours, wake quietly in the middle of the night, then fall asleep again until morning. This cycle feels instinctive, peaceful, even natural. Perhaps that is how prehistoric people lived every night without fighting the body's own pulse. Experts still discuss whether this pattern was shaped by biology or by circumstance. Did humans evolve for two phases of sleep because it matched the environment? Or did it arise from the need for nighttime watchfulness? There are no firm answers, only the sense that your ancestors knew how to live with darkness, not against it. You crouch down and run your hands through the cool grass. Dew clings to your skin like fine silk. The air carries the scent of soil and old rain. Somewhere nearby, someone exhales softly in sleep. The sound is faint, but grounding. You realize how strange it is that modern people fight so hard to control sleep, timing it with precision, while the earliest humans simply trusted their surroundings to decide for them. Imagine what that must have felt like, to be free of glowing screens, of ticking clocks, of the pressure to wake at a certain hour. The night itself dictated rest. When the stars were bright, you might stay awake a little longer, talking or humming. When clouds covered the sky, the darkness deepened, and you drifted sooner. The body and the earth spoke the same language. A small, overlooked clue from anthropology adds color to this picture. Some ancient groups, it seems, recognized different parts of the night with names instead of hours. The early dark, when the last birds fell silent, had one name. The deep stillness before midnight had another. The faint paling of the horizon, a third. These were the markers of time before numbers, gentle cues that told the body where it was in the night's journey. The absence of time created its own serenity. Without counting hours, you could rest without guilt. If you woke for a while, it was simply part of the night's natural breathing. You could sit up, tend a small ember, share a whisper, or stare at the stars until drowsiness returned. There was no frustration, no sense of failure, only the rhythm of dark and light, work and rest, breath and silence. You lie down on the earth. The ground is cool, uneven, alive. A soft hum of insects rises from somewhere close, joined by the distant croak of a frog. It is not noise, it is the night's heartbeat. Your eyes close naturally, not from exhaustion but from surrender. There is no clock to tell you how long it takes. Time itself softens, blurs, and dissolves. Perhaps this is what your body still craves when it lies awake in the modern dark. Not caffeine or comfort, but freedom. The freedom to exist without measurement. The chance to fall asleep when your mind quiets, and to wake when the light returns. Not when a device insists you must. You imagine yourself in a small circle of travelers. They lie scattered across the grass, faces turned upward. Some murmur softly, others already breathing deeply. There is no leader to call for bedtime. The stars are enough. The sky is enormous but kind. You can feel it pressing down softly, not to crush but to comfort. The night deepens and a faint breeze moves across your skin. It feels like a hand smoothing your hair, patient and wordless. Somewhere in that wind, you sense the rhythm of all the sleepers who came before you, the countless bodies that trusted the earth to hold them, while the sky kept watch. Your breathing slows. The grass shifts beneath you. The first hint of dew forms on your eyelashes. Time no longer matters. There is no past, no future, only this vast, endless moment between waking and dreaming. The stars turn slightly, almost imperceptibly, marking the slow passage of the hours you will never count. You wake briefly in the middle of the night. The stars have shifted. The air is cooler, and a thin mist lies close to the ground. Around you, the others are still. Their breathing rises and falls in slow, even rhythm. You stare up at the darkness and feel oddly alert, your thoughts calm but awake. Then, after a while, sleep returns, as soft as fog closing around your body. This pattern of waking and sleeping twice in a night is older than civilization itself. Long before the word insomnia existed, people understood that rest came in phases. They had what some historians call the first and second sleep, separated by a quiet interval in the middle of the night. During that time, they might stir the fire, whisper a story, or simply lie back and think. The body accepted this rhythm as natural, not broken. Evidence from historical diaries, letters, and early records from the Middle Ages shows that this segmented pattern of sleep lasted for thousands of years, even into relatively recent times. People went to bed soon after dusk, slept for a few hours, then woke around midnight for an hour or two before drifting back into their second rest until dawn. The rhythm matched the slow heartbeat of the earth. One curious account found in 17th century England describes how families used that middle stretch of night to talk quietly, pray, or visit neighbours. Some would share small meals or read by candlelight. It was a calm, unhurried period, a kind of twilight within the night itself. To them, waking briefly did not mean sleeplessness. It meant participating in the full circle of rest. Researchers today continue to explore why this two-part pattern may have existed. Some believe it came from biology, linked to natural melatonin cycles that respond to light and temperature. Others think it evolved from the need for safety, giving groups a chance to rotate watchfulness. Whatever the reason, it fit the pace of the world in ways that modern life no longer allows. You sit up now, half dreaming, half awake. The fire is a faint orange line in the distance. The air smells of smoke and cool grass. Somewhere an owl calls, its voice deep and hollow. You feel peaceful in this in-between space, where thought drifts easily, unhurried by daylight or task. The silence feels generous. Modern science offers an interesting echo of this ancient habit. When people live for weeks without artificial light, as in certain experiments, their sleep naturally divides into two parts again. The body, freed from electric glow and clock-bound schedules, returns to its old rhythm within days. It seems the need for a single unbroken night's sleep might be more cultural than biological. You close your eyes and imagine those ancient nights. A family stirs near the fire, someone humming softly to soothe a restless child. Beyond them, the world remains vast and dark, stretching toward the horizon. The fire crackles gently, and a few sparks drift upward like faint stars. Soon, the watchers will return to sleep, and the night will fold over them again. The pause between sleeps offered something rare, space for reflection. People dreamed, woke, and sometimes spoke of those dreams before falling back into deeper rest. The mind wandered freely between the visible world and the one it created in the dark. Perhaps this is why dreams held such importance in early life. They were never rushed away by morning alarms or glowing screens. They were part of the rhythm. A small discovery from medieval writings even notes that people referred to this interval as the watch, not a time of stress or alertness, but of calm wakefulness. Some thought it was when the mind was most open to insight or prayer. In those quiet hours, without distraction, people simply existed, half in dream, half in thought, trusting that sleep would return when it wished. You shift on the ground, feeling the cool air wrap around you. The quiet in the world feels deep enough to rest inside. The fire flickers, the stars pulse faintly. You understand now that the body does not demand silence to rest. It only asks for rhythm. The soft breathing of others, the occasional rustle in the distance, the whisper of the wind across your face, all of it becomes part of the lullaby. It is strange that today, people fear waking in the night. They reach for phones, worry about time, count minutes. But your ancestors never saw this as failure. They saw it as invitation. To breathe, to listen, to think, to remember that sleep is not a switch but a tide. It ebbs, flows, and returns on its own. You let your body follow that ancient tide now. The chill of the air deepens, but your skin adjusts. A faint smile touches your lips as you sink back into your second sleep. There is no rush, no schedule, no guilt. The stars turn above you, patient and endless, marking the passage of time you will never need to count. Somewhere in that drifting silence, the mind begins to open again. Dreams creep back, quiet and vivid, shaped by the rhythm of the night itself. You dream of rivers glowing in the moonlight, of distant fires, of voices calling softly through the dark. When morning comes, you will remember fragments of those images, as if the night has gently spoken to you. Your breathing slows. The world narrows into warmth and stillness. You are floating now, suspended in a rhythm as old as life itself. two sleeps flowing together like waves on a calm sea. The moon is high tonight. Its light pours like milk across the ground, touching every leaf and stone. You stand in that silver glow and feel something ancient stir in you. The people around you are quiet, their faces lifted to the sky. The night is not only for sleeping now, it is for watching, for listening, for feeling the pull of the moon as it glides above the world. In many parts of early human history, moonlight shaped how people lived after sunset. It decided when to hunt, when to gather, and even when to rest. The lunar cycle became a natural calendar long before writing or mathematics. According to traces found in Paleolithic carvings and notched bones, early people may have counted nights by following the changing face of the moon. The rhythm of sleep and activity followed that glowing clock in the sky. There is a quiet beauty in this pattern. When the moon was full, nights were brighter and safer. People stayed awake longer, talking, working, or performing rituals. During the new moon, when darkness returned, the world rested again. You can still feel that rhythm in your own body. On some nights, when the moon is strong, you find yourself restless for no reason, your mind wide open. It is an echo of the same lunar pulse. An intriguing story passed down through folklore tells that some communities believed the moonlight carried healing power. They would place sick children under its glow, or lay tools in its light to draw out bad spirits. Others thought dreams were clearer on moonlit nights, and that one could glimpse truths from the other world while half asleep. Whether real or imagined, those beliefs gave meaning to sleeplessness. The moon turned wakefulness into wonder. The question of how much moonlight truly affects human sleep still divides scientists. Some studies claim that bright lunar phases slightly reduce melatonin levels, making sleep lighter. Others dismiss this, saying that modern light pollution hides any measurable effect. Perhaps the answer is not in data, but in memory. Our bodies might remember a time when the moon's brightness truly mattered, when it decided whether you stayed awake or drifted away. You walk a little farther, stepping through the tall grass that shimmers faintly under the glow. The world looks softer, less threatening. The shadows are gentle, filled with silvery edges instead of black voids. Somewhere ahead, a few people move together, their feet silent. You can hear their low voices blending with the night breeze. They are performing a moon ritual, though they have no word for it yet. They dance slowly around a small circle of stones. The movements are simple steps, turns, pauses, but they feel deliberate. The moon watches quietly. There is no music, only the sound of feet brushing the ground. You sense that the rhythm itself is a kind of prayer. Sleep and wakefulness blur here, because both belong to the same flow of life. Archaeological research on ancient settlements reveals traces of gatherings that seem to occur monthly, likely timed to full moons. These nights offered not just social connection but emotional safety. People could see each other's faces, share stories, and reaffirm bonds before the dark weeks returned. It was both a festival and a reminder. The night could be beautiful, not only dangerous. You sit nearby, letting the moonlight rest on your skin. It feels cool, almost electric. The scent of wildflowers floats in the air, mixed with faint smoke from the earlier fire. For a moment, you understand what those early people must have felt, something between calm and awe, a sense that the universe was breathing with them. One unusual idea from cultural anthropology suggests that early humans may have linked lunar light with fertility and rebirth, not only in women but in the earth itself. The moon became a motherly presence, her phases matching the cycles of growth and decay. Under her glow, people trusted that life would return, that morning would come again. Your eyes begin to grow heavy, but the brightness of the moon keeps you on the edge of wakefulness. It is a comfortable limbo, where thought drifts easily and senses heighten. The night hums with sound crickets, rustling leaves, the whisper of your own heartbeat. Everything moves in time with the glowing orb above. You notice how the light softens every shadow, even your own. It feels kind, not cold. You imagine countless generations lying in this same light, closing their eyes but never completely leaving the world. The moon keeps watch over them, a gentle guardian. The dancers slow their steps and sit down. A few begin to hum. The tune is simple, built from long, low tones that blend into the wind. The melody circles the clearing and fades slowly, like mist sinking into the grass. One by one, they lie down, their faces still turned toward the moon. You do the same. The ground is cool and steady beneath you. The silver glow paints faint shapes on your eyelids. You can almost feel the planet turning. The moon drifts higher, her light spilling into every corner of the earth. You let it wash over you, filling you with the kind of calm that no modern light can offer. Sleep comes softly, but not completely. You hover between dreaming and waking, your body weightless, your mind wide as the sky. In that silver quiet, you understand what prehistoric people must have known, that rest is not just darkness, but light as well, the tender glow that connects the earth, the moon, and every sleeper who ever looked up. The night is alive with small sounds. You hear the slow crackle of fading embers, the sigh of wind through tall grass, the quiet murmur of someone shifting in their sleep. The world feels enormous, yet comfortingly close. You are surrounded by people whose breathing joins with yours, a shared rhythm that hums through the dark. Here, in this ancient silence, safety is not found in walls but in one another. Humanity learned early that sleep depended on connection. One alone could not rest deeply, but many, lying close together, formed a circle of safety that calmed the body and eased the mind. The sound of others sleeping became a lullaby, proof that the world was still turning, that no danger had yet arrived. Excavations of early human camps reveal sleeping areas organized in groups, often with overlapping impressions in the soil. Archaeologists believe these patterns reflect a deliberate arrangement for warmth and protection. The young were kept in the center, the strongest near the edges, each person part of a silent agreement that allowed everyone to close their eyes without fear. A touching note from modern field studies of hunter-gatherers confirms that this instinct still survives. Among the Hadza people of Tanzania, for example, someone is always awake. As one person drifts into slumber, another stirs, so the camp remains constantly watched though no one planned it. Sleep moves like a wave through the group, and that rhythm ensures safety without breaking rest. Experts in evolutionary biology continue to discuss whether this shared sleeping pattern shaped human social behavior. Some think it created the first sense of community, a nightly rehearsal for trust. Others suggest it was purely practical warmth and security disguised as tenderness. Whatever its cause, it formed one of the earliest bonds between individuals, the comfort of hearing another's slow, steady breath. You lie back and listen. The sound is hypnotic. 100 quiet breaths rise and fall like the tide. Each exhale carries warmth into the cool air. Each inhale draws it back. It is easy to understand why humans, even now, sleep better beside someone else. The heart slows, the muscles loosen, and the ancient part of the brain whispers that everything is all right. There is a small but fascinating observation from sleep researchers. The human brain can partially synchronize to another's breathing pattern during rest. Two sleepers close together begin to match rhythms unconsciously, their bodies aligning as if remembering something old. Perhaps that is why infants fall asleep on their parents' chests, or why lovers calm each other simply by lying still. You picture this ancient camp in full. Bodies curl beneath furs and woven grass, the air thick with warmth. The faint smell of smoke and sweat mixes with crushed leaves. A few small fires glow at the edges, not large enough to frighten the night, but bright enough to mark the boundary of home. Even the wind seems to respect it, brushing gently along the outer circle before passing on. From somewhere in the dark, a low hum begins. It is not song exactly, more like vibration, a sound that feels older than words. Others join in softly, their tones overlapping. The hum fills the air, steady and soothing. It blends with the breathing, the heartbeat, the rustle of the grass. This is not performance, it is reassurance. a collective reminder that the group is whole. Anthropologists studying traditional communities have found that such nighttime sounds are not accidental. Quiet humming, whispering, or gentle speech can signal safety, ward off loneliness, and regulate emotion. The human nervous system, sensitive to sound, relaxes when it detects familiar voices. The ancients may not have known the term nervous system, but they understood the feeling. One peculiar discovery in early settlement sites shows that some sleeping areas were built close to running water. The constant murmur of streams or waves masked sharp noises, creating a natural form of white noise. Even without knowing it, prehistoric people may have chosen soundscapes that helped them rest. The same principle explains why modern people use recordings of rain or ocean surf to fall asleep. You shift slightly, wrapping a piece of animal hide tighter around you. The fabric smells of smoke and salt. The ground beneath you is uneven but strangely comforting. The warmth from those beside you seeps through the air. You are not alone, and that makes all the difference. There is a phrase that might fit this moment: the sound of safety. It is not loud or musical. It is the quiet chorus of life continuing just beyond your closed eyes. Every rustle, every sigh, every deep exhale confirms that the night is peaceful. This collective sound once kept your ancestors alive. You let that sound carry you. The low hum of voices fades. The breathing settles again. The fire sighs softly and then grows quiet. The night is perfectly still, holding the group in its cool hands. You drift somewhere between wakefulness and sleep, aware of every breath but no longer counting them. Before your mind slips fully away, you think of how this moment echoes in the modern world. The comfort of hearing footsteps in another room, the faint chatter from a neighbor, the hum of a distant city, all those things are versions of the same lullaby. They remind your ancient instincts that you are not alone. You close your eyes. The air is warm against your skin. The sound of shared breathing grows softer, blending into the darkness until it becomes silence itself. Sleep arrives without effort, drawn in by the simple reassurance that someone, somewhere nearby, is still awake. The night begins gently, but far away a sound slices through it. A distant growl, low and uncertain. You freeze, your breath shallow, eyes open to the dark. The others around you are awake too. Nobody speaks. Everyone listens. The sound comes again, closer this time. It is not imagination. Fear has returned to the night. This is how most of human prehistory felt once the fires burned low. Every rustle could be a predator. Every shadow could be movement. People slept lightly, the body poised between rest and readiness. Even in slumber, the mind kept one ear open. The ancient brain, the one still hidden inside you, never truly trusted the dark. Archaeological remains of early campsites show that sleeping circles were not chosen at random. Many were built near cliffs or water, with one open side facing terrain that could be easily watched. Some scientists believe these locations were chosen precisely for the ability to hear danger coming. Sleep and survival were intertwined in a delicate balance of vigilance and vulnerability. A curious account from field studies of modern tribes who live much as early humans did reveals that even today, people rarely sleep through the night in total silence. There is always someone who stirs, someone who listens. The pattern is almost musical, a rhythm of awareness passing through the group. That shared sensitivity kept ancient people alive when predators prowled the edges of firelight. The question of how fear shaped the evolution of sleep still intrigues researchers. Some think humans developed the ability to dream as a form of rehearsal for threats, a way for the mind to practice reacting safely. Others argue that sleep itself became lighter and more flexible because of danger, allowing the brain to wake instantly when needed. There is no final answer, only evidence written into the instincts you still feel today. You stare into the darkness and imagine the predators that once ruled these nights. Big cats whose eyes glowed amber in the dim light. Hyenas with laughter that sounded almost human. Snakes that moved without sound. To survive them, people learned to cooperate, to take turns, to share watch duties. Fear, in its own way, became a teacher. A strange but captivating detail found in cave sites suggests that people sometimes left fire-charred bones arranged deliberately near sleeping areas, as if to signal to animals that humans were close. The smell of smoke and ash created an invisible boundary. Whether it truly worked or not, the ritual itself reveals how much thought went into the art of safe sleep. You pull your hide blanket tighter. The night feels larger now. Your pulse quickens, echoing the same rhythm your ancestors must have felt when they sensed movement nearby. For them, fear was not a flaw. It was part of awareness, an early warning system older than language. Every heartbeat was a reminder to stay alive until morning. The fire flickers again, fed by someone half awake. Sparks leap upward, scattering like brief stars. The warmth returns, carrying the familiar scent of burning wood. The group relaxes, just a little. A few soft whispers rise and fade, reassurance in the shape of sound. The growl does not return. The silence grows deep again. Biologists who study animal behavior note that many predators are less active when light is present, even a weak glow. Firelight, torches, or reflected moonlight might have been enough to give humans an edge. The fire not only warmed the body but calmed the nervous system. The orange light became a signal that safety was near, a visual lullaby. You lie back down, muscles still tense. Your body remembers that tension, even if your world no longer needs it. It is the same reaction that startles you awake after a loud noise, the same instinct that makes your heart race when you hear footsteps in the dark. Those sensations are not modern anxiety, they are fossils of survival. One of the most mysterious traces of ancient fear is found in dream studies. People across cultures and ages dream of being chased. It is among the most common human experiences. Perhaps those dreams are not random at all, but inherited memory, a rehearsal for danger passed down from nights like this one. The fire pops softly again, and you exhale. The moment of fear fades, replaced by relief. You realize that even fear has its rhythm tense, alert, then releasing. It makes the return of calm feel richer. Without danger, peace would lose its sweetness. That is something your ancestors knew instinctively. You glance around the sleeping circle. Faces are calm again, eyes closed, the glow of embers painting them in warm light. One person still sits upright, keeping quiet watch. Their silhouette moves slightly, scanning the darkness. You feel gratitude without words. That single watcher is enough to let you drift back into dreams. The night breathes again. The grass rustles, the fire hums, and your body sinks into the ground. Fear lingers somewhere on the edge of awareness, but it no longer rules you. It has turned into a guardian, keeping you alert yet allowing sleep to return. You close your eyes and let that rhythm carry you. The balance between caution and comfort has always been fragile, yet it is what made rest possible. You are safe now, not because the world is quiet, but because someone is listening. That was the secret of survival then, and it still is now. Morning comes slowly. The first warmth of sunlight slides across your skin, and you blink awake to see the faint orange glow touching the horizon. The fire has died into ash, but its smell lingers in the air, mixed with the sweetness of grass and damp soil. You stretch, your body stiff from sleeping on the ground, and feel something both ordinary and miraculous, the relief of waking up alive. As the group rises, they begin to tidy the sleeping area, brushing away leaves and ash, gathering what remains of last night's fire. Some prepare to move on, others to rebuild for another night. It is then that you notice how every movement centers around the same simple idea, comfort. What began as survival is slowly becoming art. Archaeologists studying early human sites have discovered that even in the oldest settlements, people improved their resting places with intention. They spread leaves, stacked animal skins, and sometimes layered ash beneath grass to repel insects. The earliest beds found in Border Cave in South Africa date back more than 200,000 years, built from bundles of sedge grass and mixed with crushed aromatic plants. It was not only practical but sensory. The smell of greenery calmed the mind and signaled safety. One little-known detail from these findings suggests that certain plants were chosen for their texture as well as their scent. Some leaves were soft and springy, others repelled moisture, making the ground feel warmer. The ancestors who once slept directly on cold earth were learning to create softness where none existed. It was the first expression of comfort. There is still disagreement among researchers about what these early sleeping arrangements truly meant. Some think they were purely utilitarian, just a way to keep insects away. Others argue that the choice of materials shows the birth of aesthetic awareness, a desire for beauty even in rest. Whatever the answer, these simple grass beds were the beginning of humanity's long relationship with luxury. You kneel and touch the flattened grass. It feels faintly springy, still holding the shape of bodies that slept there. The faint perfume of wild herbs rises in the air. You realize how deeply smell connects to memory, how it lingers in the mind longer than sight or sound. To those early people, the scent of crushed leaves might have meant safety, belonging, or love. A few steps away, a woman spreads a new layer of plants over her family's sleeping space. She hums quietly as she works, her fingers deft and sure. The hum is a rhythm she learned from her mother, who learned it from hers. It is not a song but a pattern of breath that matches the motion of her hands. You watch her sprinkle ash along the outer edges to keep crawling things away. The small grey border gleams in the morning light, like a frame around a painting. Anthropologists note that around this time, humans began shaping objects specifically for rest. Skins were softened, woven mats appeared, and the first head supports were carved from wood or stone. These were not yet pillows, but the idea was there to cradle the head, to align the body, to transform rest into restoration. Even now, the instinct to fluff a pillow or smooth a sheet before sleep is a quiet echo of this ancient need for care. One intriguing discovery from Northern Europe revealed that early people sometimes lined their bedding with feathers, likely scavenged from birds they hunted. The feathers added insulation and softness, a touch of comfort unimaginable just a few generations before. It is astonishing to think that the first down-filled bed was made by hands that still hunted with stone tools. You lie back, imagining the sensation of that ancient bed. The grass bends gently beneath you. The scent of smoke and herbs rises with each breath. Your head rests against a bundle of soft skins. The ground feels alive but kind, neither too firm nor too yielding. You can almost hear the faint hum of insects outside the shelter, their rhythm blending with the pulse of your own heartbeat. The world is changing. Sleep, once purely about survival, is now about recovery. The difference is small but immense. People no longer rest only when exhaustion demands it. They rest to feel well, to dream, to think. You can sense the beginning of humanity's long journey toward comfort and creativity. A single carved object, found in what is now Kenya, may have served as a pillow or a symbolic resting stone. Its surface is smoothed from use, the edges polished by countless nights of contact. Such an object speaks of care, of familiarity, of a place that feels like home. For the first time, sleep is not only an act of instinct, but an act of choice. You glance around and see others preparing their spaces too. They share tools, laughter, and quiet conversation. The smell of morning fires drifts through the air, mingled with crushed grass and smoke. The scene feels peaceful. The struggle of survival is still there, but it now coexists with moments of tenderness. The night no longer owns them completely. You settle again, eyes half closed, letting the sunlight warm your face. The ground feels softer than it did yesterday, or maybe your body has learned its language. You understand now why sleep mattered so deeply. It was the time when fear released its grip, when people could rebuild their strength and spirit. In the distance, a child runs past, clutching a handful of feathers, laughing. The sound rings clear and bright, blending with the morning breeze. You smile without meaning to. Rest and joy, it seems, have always been intertwined. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth seep through your skin, and think about how far this small group has come. From curling in branches to crafting beds of grass and herbs, from trembling in darkness to humming at dawn, they have turned survival into comfort and comfort into art. Night falls again, and the fire glows softly. The air hums with the sounds of insects, crackling wood, and distant water. You lie back and stare at the darkness above, no longer afraid. Tonight feels different. Sleep has become a space not only for rest but for something deeper. As your eyelids grow heavy, you understand what the ancients believed, that dreams were not private illusions but messages, bridges between the living and the unseen. Long before written history, people looked to their dreams for meaning. Archaeological findings suggest that rituals surrounding sleep existed even in early tribal societies. Small charms made of bones or carved stones were often placed beside sleeping spaces, perhaps to invite good visions or protect against bad ones. To those who lived by instinct, the boundary between waking and dreaming was not as sharp as it is for you. Both worlds were equally real. Ancient stories that survive through oral tradition speak of dream journeys, hunters who followed animal spirits across the dark, healers who received knowledge in sleep, elders who met the dead in the quiet of night. For them, dreams were not random. They were guidance, revelation, sometimes even prophecy. A particularly intriguing detail comes from early burial sites where people were found lying with small symbols painted on their eyelids. Some researchers think this gesture was meant to help them see in the afterlife, carrying the power of dreams beyond death. Imagine the tenderness of that belief, that sleep and death were simply two sides of the same door, and dreams were the key that opened it. The scientific community still discusses why humans dream at all. Some neuroscientists see dreams as the brain's way of processing memory, while others think they help regulate emotion. Yet even today, no one fully understands their purpose. The mystery remains, and perhaps that is part of their beauty. Your ancestors may have known something modern minds have forgotten, that the unknowable has its own kind of wisdom. You shift slightly, watching the sparks drift upward. The group around you has grown quiet. Someone sighs softly, another murmurs in sleep. You imagine their dreams spilling into the night air, mingling together like smoke, each vision unique, yet somehow connected. Perhaps that is how early people saw it, that every dream was part of a larger conversation, one that linked every mind to the great silence of the world. One curious observation recorded by anthropologists studying traditional societies is that people often share their dreams in the morning, not as gossip but as part of community life. A hunter might describe a dream of an animal and take it as a sign of where to find food. A mother might speak of a troubling image and ask the elders to interpret it. Dream sharing was both therapy and ceremony, a reminder that the night had meaning. You close your eyes now, drifting toward your own dream. The fire's glow seeps through your eyelids, painting faint shapes behind them. You hear a rhythmic hum, slow and deep, and your mind begins to travel. In this half-dream, you see a wide river glimmering under the stars. The water flows quietly, carrying small reflections of light that seem alive. You reach toward it, and your hand touches cool air instead of water. You realize the river is not real, but it feels real enough to teach something you do not yet understand. Across countless ages, people tried to explain that feeling, the sense that dreams held truth. Some said the gods spoke through sleep. Others believed the spirits of ancestors visited to offer protection. Even in cultures far apart, the same pattern appears, the belief that what you see at night matters, that it is not illusion, but revelation. A small finding from early Mesopotamian clay tablets shows detailed instructions for dream incubation. People would lie down in temples dedicated to healing or prophecy, hoping to receive answers while they slept. They described their dreams to priests who interpreted them as divine messages. You can imagine the quiet in those places, hundreds of sleepers waiting for wisdom to arrive. The question of where dreams come from still fascinates modern thinkers. Some see them as random signals, a kind of internal static. Others insist they are the voice of memory, organizing chaos into story. But even the most scientific explanations cannot erase their strangeness. You can measure the brain's activity, but not the texture of a dream, not the way it feels when you fly or fall or meet someone who has long been gone. You take a deep breath. The smoke from the fire is sweet and soft, the air warm against your skin. Sleep folds around you, and your mind begins to drift again. Somewhere in that space between thought and oblivion, you meet faces you do not know, voices you cannot name. They speak in symbols, in colors, in feelings. The logic of waking life disappears, replaced by something older, freer. When you wake in the grey light before dawn, the dream slips away like mist. You try to remember it, but it dissolves too quickly. What remains is the sensation that it meant something, even if you cannot say what. The others are stirring too, rubbing their eyes, stretching, murmuring softly about their own visions. You see faint smiles, a few puzzled looks. The night's stories will soon be shared around the fire. You realize that, in every age, people wake this way, half remembering, half forgetting, but always wondering. The dream may be gone, but its trace remains, like the scent of smoke on your skin. The night deepens, and the air grows cool. You sit beside the fading fire, the embers glowing like small red eyes in the dark. Overhead, the sky stretches wide and clear, filled with more stars than you could ever count. They seem to move, though you know they do not. Their faint flickering turns the blackness into a living thing. You can understand why your ancestors once looked upward and found stories written there. In a world without cities, the stars were companions. They were the lanterns that guided travel, the markers of season and time, and the silent witnesses to every human breath. Archaeological findings from megalithic sites show that people were already observing constellations tens of thousands of years ago, long before agriculture or writing. The sky was their first calendar and their first myth. Some anthropologists suggest that people's sleeping spaces were often arranged so they could see the stars through gaps in the rock or the roof. The night sky acted as both a ceiling and a map. Lying beneath it, the stars seemed close enough to touch. When sleep came, it came under their gaze, and perhaps that made the dark less lonely. There is a detail from oral traditions among the San people of southern Africa that adds color to this thought. They say the stars are the campfires of spirits who sleep in the sky. When one dies out, it means the spirit has finished resting and returned to earth. Imagine lying in the grass, half awake, half dreaming, and watching those celestial fires burn. The comfort in that image is immediate, the sense that the night is alive, that no one ever truly sleeps alone. The debate among modern historians about when humans first read patterns in the stars continues. Some argue that constellations began as navigational tools. Others claim they were symbolic stories to explain creation. But perhaps both are true. The night sky was too vast to ignore and too beautiful not to imagine. It gave shape to wonder, and wonder gave shape to rest. You stretch out on your back, the ground cool beneath you. The stars ripple faintly through the air, as though moving with your breath. The silence is immense. Somewhere, an insect buzzes, and the sound fades into the distance. In this stillness, you feel the pull of those lights. It is not curiosity exactly, it is belonging. The same patterns that guided your ancestors' eyes now shine above you unchanged. The great hunter, the river of the sky, the seven sisters. All of them older than civilization itself. A discovery in prehistoric European caves suggests that even the animal paintings might mirror constellations. Certain clusters of dots on the walls align with known star patterns like Taurus and Pleiades. If true, this would mean that people were mapping the heavens long before they built cities. To imagine those early artists drawing both the animals of Earth and the shapes of the sky is to see how deeply connected their waking world and their dream world were. You turn your head slightly, watching the stars drift toward the horizon. The faint light of the Milky Way spreads like smoke across the darkness. It feels endless and comforting at the same time. Somewhere in that streak of silver, entire myths were born, stories of creation, loss, and renewal. They were not bedtime tales in the modern sense, but living memories of the cosmos. One detail from early mythology is especially tender. In some traditions, it was believed that when people dreamed, their souls rose to the stars and rested there until morning. Sleep was not escape, but ascent, a nightly return to the sky. The stars, bright and constant, became both destination and home. Modern astronomy tells you that each star is a sun, enormous and distant, many with their own planets. But even with all that knowledge, they still hold the same pull they did then. You look at them and feel small, yet strangely safe. The night sky has a way of reminding you that rest is part of the same cosmic rhythm that moves everything else. The idea that sleep might have been more peaceful beneath that sky feels right. Without artificial light, the darkness was whole. The stars provided just enough glow to make shapes visible, a soft shimmer to replace fear. Their steady presence offered reassurance that the world continued, even when eyes were closed. You close your eyes now and picture yourself as one of those early dreamers. The fire fades, but you feel no dread. The stars watch quietly above you, the air cool and patient. You imagine that, somewhere out there, the spirits of other sleepers shine back, each one a spark in the vast night. Your breathing slows. The sounds of the world dissolve into a single hum. Sleep comes easily beneath a sky like this, one that promises continuity, one that reminds you of how vast and steady life can be. You understand, as your ancestors did, that the stars are more than distant fire. They are reminders of the rhythm you belong to. The last thing you see before drifting away is a trail of light crossing the sky, brief and silent. You feel the urge to make a wish, though you know no word for it yet. Somewhere deep inside, you already understand that hope and sleep are the same kind of surrender. The air is cooler tonight, carrying the crisp edge of approaching rain. You can smell the damp earth, rich and alive, waiting for water. As the sun sinks, clouds gather low across the horizon, their edges glowing faintly red. You pull your hide closer around your shoulders, feeling the first tremor of chill. Temperature, more than time, once ruled how humans slept. The rhythm of warmth and cold told the body when to wake, when to rest, and when to dream. Archaeological research shows that in ancient dwellings, sleeping areas were placed deliberately near sources of warmth, fire pits, sunlit stone, or even piles of stored food that radiated slow heat. Where climates were cold, layers of grass, leaves, or furs insulated the sleepers from the ground. In hotter lands, people rested on elevated platforms of woven reeds to allow air to move beneath them. Every culture adapted, finding harmony between body and environment. A fascinating note from paleoanthropology describes how even before controlled housing, people instinctively followed temperature cycles. Their bodies cooled with the air at night, releasing hormones that invited sleep, and warmed again with sunrise. Long before words like circadian rhythm existed, the body already understood the song of light and dark, heat and coolness. Modern scientists sometimes rediscover this truth. In laboratories, they find that lowering a room's temperature helps people fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. Your body, though surrounded by centuries of technology, still listens to the same primal signals. A drop of a few degrees is enough to whisper, "It is time to rest." The details of how prehistoric people managed cold nights are striking. In Ice Age shelters, evidence of hollowed-out pits filled with hot stones suggests that groups created early versions of radiant heating. The stones, warmed by fire, released heat slowly through the night. Families gathered close, sharing warmth that lasted until dawn. Picture it, the glow of embers beneath a thin veil of smoke, the gentle pulse of heat against the skin, the steady breathing of sleepers bundled in furs. There is an odd and little-known finding from a site in northern Russia: animal fat smeared along the inner walls of shelters. possibly used to block drafts. It gave off a faint scent when warmed, a mixture of musk and smoke. To modern ears, it might sound unpleasant, but to them, it was comfort itself, the smell of safety, of warmth held close against winter's bite. The debate among researchers about whether prehistoric humans fully controlled their thermal environment continues. Some argue that mastery of warmth was limited to firelight. Others believe they built intricate systems of heat retention using stone, clay, and ash. Whatever the case, those early innovations show a kind of wisdom that came not from intellect alone but from attention. They watched how the world moved and adjusted in return. You can imagine a night like this one. The fire flickers low, and a thin rain begins to fall outside the shelter. The smell of smoke deepens. The damp air cools your face, but your body is wrapped in warmth. The small sound of dripping water becomes part of the rhythm of sleep. Each drop that hits the earth is like a heartbeat, soft, persistent, reassuring. A woman nearby shifts, pulling her child closer. The child's head rests against her chest, rising and falling with each breath. That small exchange of warmth, skin to skin, might be the oldest form of comfort in human history. Modern science now calls it thermoregulation, but to them, it was simply love. Later in history, as humans migrated through different climates, they carried these habits with them. In tropical lands, people built shelters that breathed, walls of palm and grass that released heat into the night. In frozen valleys, they built mounds of snow or earth to trap warmth. Everywhere, the goal was the same: to match the rhythm of the body to the rhythm of the world. You lie back, eyes closed, feeling how your own body still remembers this wisdom. The cooler air on your face, the warmth beneath the blanket, the soft sound of the rain outside, it all speaks to something older than reason. You do not need silence or perfect stillness to rest. You need only balance. The gentle difference between cool and warm is enough to rock you into dreams. One anthropologist once remarked that prehistoric sleep was probably far more aligned with weather than with time. Storms brought earlier rest. Heat delayed it. The body obeyed what it felt, not what it planned. Perhaps that is why insomnia is so common now. You live in rooms where temperature never changes, where the body forgets how to read the sky. The rain grows steadier, tapping lightly on stone and leaf. The sound wraps around you like a melody. You breathe slowly, your body loosening as it cools. The fire's glow dances through your closed eyelids, a faint orange rhythm. You understand now that warmth is not a luxury but a conversation, a way of listening to the world through your skin. Sleep begins to arrive, not suddenly but like mist creeping over water. The air is cold on your face, the blanket warm against your chest. You feel the pull between the two, a perfect balance that quiets everything inside you. This was how the ancients rested, guided not by clocks or noise, but by the living touch of the earth. The rain has passed. The night air feels washed clean, and a faint mist lingers close to the ground. You can smell wet wood, smoke, and the faint sweetness of crushed plants. The fire crackles softly again, its warmth steady and calm. Around it, the group settles into rest. Tonight, you are not sleeping alone, but within a circle of quiet voices, slow laughter, and shared stillness. This is what it means to sleep together in the oldest sense of the word. Archaeological evidence from early communal dwellings shows that people often slept side by side in large open spaces. In some excavated huts and caves, impressions in the soil form wide patches rather than individual spots, suggesting that several bodies rested close together. There were no separate bedrooms, no private corners. Sleep was a shared experience, a nightly reminder that survival depended on each other. According to studies of traditional societies that still live close to nature, this way of resting persists. In communities from the Amazon to East Africa, families and even entire groups lie within arm's reach. Children fall asleep against their parents, elders hum softly, and the air fills with the warmth of shared breathing. The sense of belonging runs deeper than words. For ancient people, Closeness at night was not just comfort, it was protection. An observation made by cultural researchers notes that these sleeping arrangements also reinforced social bonds. By lying together, people maintained contact and trust. Arguments softened, fear eased, and affection renewed itself through the simple act of being near. A group that slept well together woke strong. Perhaps that is why human touch remains so calming, why the warmth of another heartbeat still quiets anxiety in your modern life. The question of when humans began to value privacy in sleep divides historians. Some suggest it happened with agriculture and permanent homes, when walls created new forms of separation. Others believe the shift came much later, with industrial life and the rise of individuality. Whatever its origin, solitude in rest was once unthinkable. To sleep apart from the group would have been dangerous and profoundly lonely. You glance around at the circle of faces glowing faintly in the light of the fire. Some are already asleep, others half awake, murmuring. The sound is gentle, like water flowing over stones. A mother strokes her child's hair. An elder adjusts his cloak, sighs, and closes his eyes. The rhythm of all this movement feels deeply human, as if the entire camp breathes together. A remarkable finding from early hearth sites in Siberia suggests that people arranged fires not in the center, but slightly off to one side of sleeping areas. This allowed light and warmth to reach everyone equally. Even the layout of the night reflected fairness and care. The fire was not for one person, but for all. You lie down again, your head resting on folded cloth, the ground soft beneath you. The faint warmth of those beside you spreads like invisible sunlight. You can hear a low hum, a half-remembered melody someone starts to sing. The tune carries no words, only tone and rhythm, yet it holds meaning. It is a sound of safety, a signal that it is time to rest. Modern researchers studying sleep patterns among groups living communally have found that when people share space, their heart rates often slow together. The presence of others calms the nervous system. Even unconscious, the body feels connection and lets go of vigilance. This ancient pattern still lingers within you, though the walls of modern life have hidden it. Imagine falling asleep like that, wrapped not only in warmth but in the sound of others breathing, the faint vibration of shared life all around you. It is not crowded, it is peaceful. The night feels whole because everyone is part of it. You begin to understand that rest was never only a physical need, it was also a social ritual. Each night reaffirmed the group's unity. Each morning proved it had held. Sleep was not solitude but belonging. In that closeness, dreams themselves may have intertwined, shared in fragments by those sleeping shoulder to shoulder. There is an unusual piece of evidence from the earliest villages that suggests some groups created sleeping mats large enough for several people, woven from reeds and tied with vines. These mats were repaired often, not discarded, as though they held sentimental value. They were not objects, but symbols of togetherness, touched by hundreds of hands and thousands of nights. You look toward the fire again. The flames have burned low, flickering in slow rhythm. Shadows move across faces, peaceful and unguarded. A faint snore rises, then fades. Somewhere beyond the shelter, an owl calls once, clear and soft. The night breathes in response. You feel yourself drifting. The warmth of the group holds you steady, and the sound of their rest carries you towards sleep. The firelight wavers behind your eyelids, painting slow patterns of red and gold. You think briefly of your modern bed, the quiet room, the isolation you have grown used to, and you realize how different this is. Here, you belong entirely to something larger than yourself. The hum continues for a few moments more, then fades. The camp becomes silent except for the soft whisper of wind through the grass. Your breath joins the others, part of the same slow tide. Sleep comes easily, carrying with it the old comfort of shared life. The first color of dawn touches the horizon, soft pink melting into grey. You stir, not from an alarm, but from light itself. The air feels different now, carrying that fragile balance between night and day. The fire is a pile of faintly smoking embers, the last warmth of darkness disappearing into morning. Around you, others are beginning to wake too, stretching, yawning, and rubbing their eyes. No one rushes. The rising sun dictates the rhythm. Before the invention of clocks or schedules, light was the world's only measure of time. People rose when the sky brightened and rested when it dimmed. The coming of dawn was not simply the start of a new day, but a slow unfolding of color, sound, and scent. The light moved across the land like a whisper, touching faces, stones, and leaves in the same steady order. Archaeologists studying prehistoric settlements have found that sleeping areas were often oriented toward the east. Openings in caves or huts allowed the first light to reach sleepers' faces. This natural awakening was gentle, biological, and perfectly tuned to the body's internal rhythm. The hormone melatonin faded as light touched the eyes, and wakefulness returned without the shock of noise. The day arrived softly, and the body trusted it. A particularly beautiful finding from early coastal sites shows that people sometimes greeted the sunrise together. Charcoal circles suggest morning fires, likely used to warm food while watching the horizon. To wake as a group, facing the same light, was both practical and sacred. Dawn reminded them that the world was still kind enough to return. Scholars of ancient myth note how many early religions revered dawn as a spirit of renewal. To wake was not a duty but a miracle. Each sunrise meant the darkness had once again released its hold. For those who slept under the open sky, the boundary between sleeping and waking was more spiritual than physical. They did not start their day, they were simply carried into it. You sit up now and watch as the mist lifts from the grass. The color of everything changes by the second gray to blue, blue to gold. The air smells like earth and fire mixed with dew. Somewhere nearby, someone laughs softly, a sound so gentle it feels like part of the morning itself. The night's tension has vanished. The world feels washed clean. Modern research confirms what your ancestors already knew. Natural light helps align the human body with its environment. The first rays of sunlight reset the internal clock, stabilize mood, and improve rest. The rhythm of light and dark, embedded over millions of years, remains unchanged in your genes. You can bury yourself in screens and electricity, but your body still waits for the color of dawn to remind it how to live. A curious observation recorded by early travelers describes how nomadic groups often paused at sunrise for quiet reflection. They did not pray in words, but they sat still, facing the light, until the warmth reached them. This silence was their meditation. They needed no ritual, no doctrine, only the certainty that the sun would rise again. You close your eyes for a moment and feel the sunlight on your skin. It seeps slowly into you, warming muscles and bones, waking the heart more gently than any sound could. Around you, the others begin to move, gathering tools, stretching limbs, greeting the day with quiet voices. You notice how naturally everything happens. No command, no schedule, only rhythm. Historians often point out that in ancient societies, the pace of the morning was slower. People began with small tasks, rekindling the fire, sharing food, tending children. The body needed time to cross the bridge from rest to wakefulness. It was an act of respect toward nature, to align with the light rather than to race it. You look toward the east and think about how far the human relationship with morning has drifted. The sun still rises, but few notice its color now. Most people wake to noise and urgency, blinds pulled tight against the sky. Yet the same light still carries the promise of calm, waiting quietly behind the window. A small but telling clue from early agriculture shows that people tracked the sun not only for crops but for mood. Seasonal migrations often followed the length of daylight. When days shortened, they rested more. When they grew long, they worked longer. Their lives expanded and contracted with the light, like breathing. You reach out and stir the ashes of the fire with a stick. A few embers glow again, small and patient. You blow softly, and they flare orange, ready to begin another day. The act feels familiar, like shaking hands with the morning itself. The group begins to share food grains, fruit, bits of dried meat. The fire pops gently, and thin smoke curls into the light. Everyone eats in silence for a moment, still half within their dreams. You realize how natural this feels, how different from the abrupt mornings of your world. Here, waking is an art. The sun climbs higher, and the mist dissolves completely. The warmth spreads through the camp, touching every surface, drying dew and drawing out scent from the grass. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with air that smells like new beginnings. You finally stand, stretching slowly, feeling every joint wake up. The light glows golden across your skin. You understand now why the ancients trusted dawn. It was not only light returning to the world, it was life itself keeping its promise. Sleep had done its work. The body was ready again. The night has returned, gentle and cool, carrying the scent of wildflowers and crushed leaves. The fire is smaller tonight, its glow soft on the faces nearby. Someone stirs a clay pot, the faint aroma of herbs rising through the smoke. The air tastes slightly bitter, almost sweet, and you realize that this is not food, it is medicine for sleep. Long before chemistry or written prescriptions, humans learned from the earth how to rest. They knew which roots eased pain, which leaves slowed the heartbeat, which flowers coaxed the mind toward dreams. According to evidence from early burial sites and preserved tools, traces of plants like valerian, poppy, and chamomile have been found near sleeping areas. These were not random herbs. They were the first lullabies, whispered in scent and taste. One anthropological account describes how prehistoric people often gathered plants by moonlight, believing that their power peaked when the world was quiet. Women and elders carried woven baskets filled with roots and blossoms, drying them by the fire or crushing them into pastes. These mixtures were burned, brewed, or chewed before rest. The knowledge passed from one generation to another, long before writing could record it. Modern scientists examining ancient residues on pottery have confirmed that some of these early concoctions contained mild sedatives. The combination of plant smoke and ritual breathing likely slowed the nervous system. In that sense, your ancestors practiced pharmacology guided only by intuition and attention. The body told them what worked, and they listened. A rare but fascinating finding from a cave in Central Asia reveals traces of blue lotus pollen in sleeping chambers. The flower, sacred in later Egyptian and Indian cultures, was known for its calming properties and its ability to induce vivid dreams. To imagine that same scent floating through a dark cave, mingling with smoke and song, is to glimpse the first human pursuit of conscious dreaming. There is still uncertainty among researchers about whether these plants were used mainly for healing or for exploring altered states. Some suggest they were tools for spirituality, others for simple comfort. What remains clear is that the line between medicine and ritual was thin. To them, sleep was not only rest but a doorway, and certain plants held the key. You picture the scene. A group gathers quietly as night deepens. Someone grinds dried leaves with a stone, the rhythmic sound blending with the crackle of fire. Another pours water into a clay cup and places it near the flame. The air fills with fragrance earthy, floral, faintly sweet. The first person to drink closes their eyes, exhales slowly, and smiles. Within minutes, the conversation softens into murmurs. The use of scent and flavor in these ancient rituals reveals something deeply human. Even now, you seek calm through similar means. The smell of tea, the aroma of candles, the comfort of a warm drink before bed. These gestures are old, almost instinctive, echoes of the same desire to invite rest gently rather than force it. A peculiar note from ethnobotanical studies tells of tribes that believed certain plants had spirits that guarded sleepers. They would hang bundles of herbs above sleeping spaces so the scent would drift downward through the night. To modern eyes, this looks like decoration, but to them it was protection. The plants were companions, silent watchers of the dark. You lift the cup beside you and take a slow sip. The taste is sharp, grounding, then unexpectedly soft. The warmth moves through your chest, spreading outward. The tension in your shoulders begins to fade. Around you, the others are quiet. Faces turn toward the firelight. The world feels slower, heavier, and kind. Modern research has rediscovered what those early herbalists already knew. Substances like valerian root, lavender, and chamomile genuinely help the body relax. They lower heart rate, calm the mind, and prepare the senses for rest. You can almost imagine an unbroken thread connecting the stone tools grinding herbs to the glass teacup on a modern nightstand, thousands of years apart, yet serving the same need to ease the passage into dreams. You breathe deeply, and the scent of smoke and flowers fills your lungs. The sound of the wind outside becomes distant, almost musical. Someone hums softly, a tone that wavers like the flame. It feels natural, this blending of plant and sound, body and spirit. You realize that sleep was never purely physical. It was always a form of surrender, guided by small rituals that reminded the body it was safe to let go. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the fire begins to blur. The herbs have done their quiet work. The air feels thick with peace, a tapestry of scent, sound, and breath. The night stretches open, vast and welcoming. As you drift, the last thing you sense is the perfume of the plants curling upward into the stars. Somewhere in that fragrance, your ancestors sleep too, their dreams carried on the same invisible wind. The connection is unbroken, carried from one night to another across the ages, each sleeper whispering softly to the next, "Rest now. The world is kind tonight." The fire has gone out completely tonight, and the air feels vast. You are far from the shelter of caves and forests now, traveling under a sky so open it almost swallows you. The stars above look brighter than ever, scattered like pieces of salt across black velvet. This is the world of nomads, people who slept wherever the land allowed, never belonging to one place but always belonging to the earth itself. Nomadic life shaped how humans rested. Sleep was light, flexible, and always ready to be broken. Movement became part of the rhythm of rest. Archaeological traces from early migration routes reveal temporary hearths, often no larger than a cooking bowl, placed miles apart. These small fire circles mark the path of people who carried their homes in memory, not in walls. Studies of pastoral and nomadic cultures show that even today, sleep in motion is common. Herdsmen in Mongolia or reindeer herders in the Arctic rest in short intervals, trusting their animals and their senses to alert them to danger. Their sleep follows the journey, not the clock. For them, lying down is not the end of movement but a pause within it. One particularly beautiful finding from prehistoric campsites along river valleys shows traces of compact sleeping mats made from reeds. They were light enough to roll and carry, soft enough to offer comfort on bare ground. These mats were found beside tools for fishing and hunting, proof that people never stopped long enough to build permanent beds. Rest was meant to travel with them. There is a story recorded in the traditions of the Sami people of northern Europe that captures this perfectly. They say that when you fall asleep under moving stars, your soul travels ahead of you, scouting the next place to rest. The dreamer becomes a guide, and waking means simply catching up to the dream. You imagine that thought slipping into the minds of your ancestors as they walked mile after mile under cold skies. Researchers in evolutionary psychology continue to debate whether this constant motion made prehistoric people sleep less or more deeply. Some argue that shorter, deeper sleep evolved as a survival strategy. Others believe that frequent movement and exposure to the open air made sleep lighter but more refreshing. Perhaps both are true. The balance between vigilance and surrender was the secret to their endurance. You walk through the tall grass, your steps soft. The night air feels alive against your face, cool and sharp. Every few miles, the group stops to rest. There is no building to enter, no door to close, only the wide sky and the faint glow of embers from a small fire. Each person finds a spot and lies down, faces turned toward the stars. The land itself becomes the bed, the sky, the blanket. One of the quieter details discovered from ancient travel routes is the use of stones arranged in circles or lines near resting places. Some archaeologists believe they marked paths or boundaries, but others think they served as comfort, a way to make the unfamiliar feel familiar. To sleep beside a circle of stones was to create a temporary home, even for a single night. You lie back on the hard earth. The wind moves through the grass with a low hiss, steady and hypnotic. There is no ceiling, no walls, just the slow turning of constellations. You realize how small you are against this horizon, but the feeling is not fear, it is freedom. The entire world lies open, and for a few hours, you can rest inside it. An observation from modern fieldwork among Bedouin travelers describes something similar. They often sleep in short bursts under the stars, waking briefly to check the herds or tend to the fire, then falling back asleep without effort. Their bodies know how to slip in and out of rest like breath. Sleep becomes portable, carried like a tool rather than confined to a place. The wind changes direction, carrying the scent of dry sand and smoke. You close your eyes, feeling the world shift around you. Somewhere nearby, a horse exhales softly, a rhythmic sound that blends with your breathing. The connection between human and animal feels deep, as if both are tuned to the same pattern. In nomadic life, rest was shared not only among people but with the creatures that traveled beside them. A small, often overlooked detail from archaeological remains shows horse and camel bones found near sleeping areas, suggesting that humans chose to sleep close to their animals for warmth and security. The companionship was physical and emotional, a silent agreement between species to protect one another while the world turned. The body adapts quickly to such simplicity. The absence of walls, of heavy blankets, of distraction, brings a kind of clarity. The cool air against the skin signals rest just as clearly as a bed does now. Sleep comes like a tide, rising and receding with the wind. You begin to drift, watching the stars shift slowly across the sky. The rhythm of movement continues even in stillness. The memory of walking carries into your breathing. The grass brushes against your arm. Somewhere in your mind, you are already traveling again, following the path your ancestors walked for thousands of years. As your eyes close, the world grows soft. The stars blur into faint silver lines. The land hums beneath you, quiet but alive. The night accepts you without question, without ownership. You belong nowhere, and that belonging feels perfect. Sleep arrives easily, carried on the same wind that will move you forward when morning comes. The horizon burns with morning light, and the land stretches far in every direction. You smell the faint sweetness of soil just turned by hand. This is a new kind of world, one your ancestors created when they stopped moving and began to stay. The nomads who once followed herds and seasons have settled beside rivers, planting seeds that tie them to a single place. With the first crops came food, villages, and the slow rearranging of sleep. Archaeological findings from early farming settlements in the Fertile Crescent reveal traces of organized houses with small separate rooms. For the first time, sleep took place behind walls. The night no longer belonged to the sky, but to spaces built by human hands. The darkness was contained, safe, and predictable. Yet something changed in that exchange. Comfort grew, but freedom began to shrink. The discovery of agriculture altered the rhythm of human rest completely. Farmers had to wake early to tend crops and animals, sometimes before the sun itself. The flexible cycles of nomadic sleep tightened into schedules. Days filled with labor, nights shortened, and the body began to resist its own instincts. You can almost feel the weight of that discipline settling into your bones as you watch the fields move in the wind. A particularly revealing set of studies from ancient Mesopotamian tablets shows early references to waking before dawn for work and offering prayers to ensure productivity. Sleep became tied to duty, not to rhythm. What had once been a natural surrender turned into something to manage, a task that competed with the needs of harvest and survival. One strange but poignant discovery from Egyptian tomb paintings shows servants fanning sleeping nobles while the rest of the workers labored under the sun. The privilege of rest was no longer shared equally. In the beginning, everyone slept together under the same sky. But now social class reached even into the world of dreams. Historians still discuss whether agriculture improved human rest or fractured it. Some argue that stable shelter and consistent food gave the body peace unknown to the hunter. Others believe that fixed routines and longer workdays shortened both sleep and imagination. The debate remains open, but one truth is clear: the night was no longer free. You walk between rows of tall grain, the stalks whispering as they sway. The sound is steady, rhythmic, a reminder of how many hands have shaped this field. The sun rises higher, and the workers begin their long day. For them, sleep is earned, not granted. It comes at the end of exhaustion, when every muscle demands release. There is no more waking in the middle of the night to watch the stars or talk to the moon. The rhythm of crops and tools has replaced the rhythm of sky and body. An unusual note from early agrarian villages reveals that families began sleeping separately according to role. The men closest to the livestock, the women and children near the hearth, and the elders in quieter corners. The communal harmony of ancient nights fractured into patterns of labor. Even in rest, each person carried their task. You kneel to touch the soil. It is warm now, soft from endless use. Beneath your hand, the ground holds the memory of seeds. It also holds the beginning of something else: anxiety. To farm meant to plan, to worry about drought or insects, to count the days and the harvest. Sleep, once a matter of trust, became a space haunted by thought. The mind no longer rested when the body did. Modern sleep studies often point to this transition as the beginning of insomnia. When humans began controlling time through farming calendars and routines, they also began resisting their natural rhythms. The sun, once the only clock, now shared its power with obligation. The first dreams of harvest were soon joined by the first restless nights. You stand and look toward the village. The smoke of cooking fires curls upward. Children laugh nearby, their voices light against the hum of labor. Even here, beauty survives. As the day ends, people gather again, not to wander but to share food and song. The fields glow gold under the setting sun, and for a few hours, work gives way to peace. When night finally comes, you see small lights flickering in each home. Fires burn in clay stoves, shadows move behind woven walls. People still hum to their children, still whisper to the night, yet it is quieter, more contained. The songs of nomads carried into the air, while the songs of farmers stay inside, pressed against the walls of their homes. A quiet finding from early village excavations reveals soot marks high above doorways, as though fires once burned too long through the night. Perhaps farmers worked even after dark, unwilling to lose time. The day stretched, the night shortened. Humanity had tamed light, but in doing so it had begun to lose its natural rest. You lie down on the edge of a field, the earth still warm from the day. The air is heavy with the smell of grain and smoke. The stars above look smaller now, half hidden by distance and dust. You breathe deeply, feeling both comfort and unease. Civilization has begun, and with it, the endless tug between work and sleep, control and surrender. Your eyes close slowly. The night hums around you, softer than before but still familiar. Even here, surrounded by fields and walls, you can almost hear the ancient rhythm whispering beneath the surface of your thoughts. The body remembers what the world forgets. Sleep arrives, carrying you not into rest alone, but into the memory of freedom that still lingers in the dark. The air smells faintly of oil and smoke. You stand on the edge of a new kind of darkness, one that does not belong to the wilderness. The fields are gone now, replaced by stone walls, narrow streets, and the quiet murmur of people who no longer fear the night as their ancestors did. In front of you, a clay lamp flickers on a windowsill, its flame small but steady. For the first time in human history, Light no longer ends when the sun sets. Archaeological remains from the earliest cities, such as Ur and Babylon, reveal entire networks of lamplight stretching through markets and homes. Bits of soot, burnt wicks, and oil stains mark the birth of urban nights. People learned to work, trade, and talk after sunset, turning darkness into another kind of day. With that new light came safety, but also sleeplessness. Records etched into tablets and papyrus speak of night watchmen, of travelers who carried torches, and of households that stayed awake long after others slept. Sleep, once shared and rhythmic, began to break apart under the weight of activity. The city was alive at all hours, and the peace that once came with dusk slowly faded. One rare text from ancient Greece describes how the flicker of oil lamps changed the mind. Poets wrote at night, merchants counted their coins, lovers met under the soft shimmer of flame. For the first time, rest had competition. The human eye, drawn to light, stayed open long past the body's request for sleep. Scholars who study the ancient world often discuss whether artificial light was the greatest gift or the first quiet thief. Some argue that it extended life and culture, allowing art and philosophy to flourish. Others see it as the beginning of fatigue, a subtle rewiring of the brain's sense of time. The debate continues, but the evidence lies in every city that glows against the dark sky even now. You walk along a narrow street paved with smooth stones. The lamps are spaced evenly, their reflections shimmering in the shallow puddles left by the evening rain. People still talk in low voices, their shadows stretching along the walls. A cat slinks past, its eyes bright as molten gold. The world feels alive, yet uneasy. The night is no longer sacred, it is busy. A small but fascinating finding from Roman ruins reveals that homeowners often kept lamps burning through the entire night. Archaeologists discovered charred remains of fuel beside sleeping areas, a sign that darkness had become something to resist rather than embrace. To sleep in absolute night now felt unnatural. Modern researchers looking at the evolution of human rest patterns have traced the beginnings of light-related insomnia to this period. The gentle pulse of the circadian rhythm, once ruled by the sun, began to falter under constant brightness. The eye's love of light became a burden, confusing the body's ancient sense of when to rest. You stop beneath one of the lamps, watching the flames sway in the wind. The light glows warm and golden, but behind it lies shadow, deep and endless. The balance feels fragile, as if the world could tilt either way. You imagine what it must have felt like for those first city dwellers to see darkness pushed back by human hands. Awe, pride, perhaps even relief. Yet hidden inside that triumph was a loss too subtle to name. A line of poetry from a fragment found near an ancient harbour reads, "The night has grown shy of its own silence." You repeat it softly under your breath. The poet might have been writing about this very moment, when the night stopped belonging to sleep and started to serve ambition. In some corners of the city, darkness still lingers. You turn into a quiet alley where the light does not reach. A group of workers lie sleeping against a wall wrapped in cloaks, their faces peaceful. The scent of bread baking somewhere nearby drifts through the air. Here, simplicity survives. Even surrounded by stone and noise, people still know how to surrender to rest. A lesser-known discovery from early urban centres shows that poorer households slept closer to the ground, near open doors, while the wealthy rested in upper rooms lit by lamps. The hierarchy of society extended even into dreams, yet across the classes, everyone needed the same thing: stillness. You look back toward the street, where the lamps continue to burn. The sound of distant music carries on the wind, gentle and haunting. The flame trembles again, and for a moment, it seems ready to die. In that flicker, you see the memory of ancient firelight, the first sparks that once gathered people into warmth and peace. Your body begins to tire. You step away from the light, into the quiet. The shadows close around you like water, cool and familiar. For a moment, you feel the old rhythm return, the pulse of true night. The air is thick, soft and kind. You lie down near a stone wall, listening to the faraway hum of the city still awake. The lamplight no longer touches you. You close your eyes, and darkness becomes whole again. The world continues to move around you, but inside this small pocket of shadow, you are back in balance. Sleep comes easily, a reminder that even surrounded by light, the body still belongs to the dark. The air is thick with the smell of coal and sweat. You open your eyes to a world where the sky no longer darkens fully, a haze of smoke drifting above rooftops that never cool. The ground trembles faintly beneath your feet as machines hum somewhere in the distance. The industrial age has arrived, and the night, once sacred, is now the second half of the workday. Factories breathe like beasts, their chimneys exhaling grey clouds into the evening air. Streets glow with gas lamps, and the sound of footsteps never ends. Humanity has learned to fight the rhythm of the planet. The cycle of sleep that once followed the sun is now ruled by shift bells and whistles. Historical records from the 19th century describe how workers slept in fragments, catching a few hours between long shifts. In some cities, factory whistles sounded at 3 in the morning to summon night laborers. Rest became rationed, divided into scraps. Families rarely slept together anymore. Some members worked while others dreamed, trading hours like currency. Letters from this period tell of exhaustion woven into everyday life. One woman wrote of her husband who returned from the mill before dawn, his clothes dusted with soot, his hands trembling. He would sleep for 2 hours on a kitchen bench before leaving again. She wrote that he dreamed of light, but she suspected it was the light of furnaces, not the sun. Scholars looking back at this age often call it the moment when humans began to lose their natural nights. Gas lamps spread through cities first, then electricity followed. The invention of constant light transformed not only streets but minds. The line between day and night blurred until it vanished. Evidence from early sleep studies conducted in the late 1800s shows that city dwellers averaged barely 5 hours of rest each night, far less than the farmers and herders before them. The hum of machinery, the clatter of carriages, and the glare of light made darkness impossible. The world had become restless, awake against its own nature. A forgotten account from a London physician describes how insomnia began to appear regularly among patients for the first time. He called it the new sickness of the city. People complained of hearts that raced when they tried to rest, minds that refused to quiet. Even sleep had become part of the price of progress. The debate among thinkers of that time was fierce. Some saw sleeplessness as weakness, an inability to adapt to modern life. Others mourned it as a spiritual loss. One writer claimed that the stars themselves had been driven from human thought by factory smoke and lamplight. You can imagine him standing in a narrow street, looking up at a sky where nothing sparkled anymore. You walk now through that same kind of city. The streets shimmer with wet cobblestones. A train whistle echoes faintly in the distance. Inside a nearby building, hundreds of small lights glow behind grimy windows. Workers move like shadows across them, faces pale, eyes heavy. They will sleep at dawn, if at all. Modern historians often reflect on how industrial schedules reshaped not just rest but imagination. Dream time shortened. Creativity began to follow the clock. The sense of slow drifting that once nurtured thought and story was replaced by fatigue. Dreams turned practical, repetitive, mechanical like the world itself. You stop beside a narrow alley and notice a worker slumped against a wall, fast asleep sitting up, his hand still clutching a wrench. The flicker of a nearby gas lamp lights his face. It is the sleep of absolute exhaustion, deep but not peaceful. You wonder if his body remembers the old rhythm, the one that followed the wind and stars, or if that memory has already faded. There is a sound that fills the industrial night, the endless hum. Machines, wheels, voices, and footsteps blend into a single, low vibration that never stops. For people of that time, silence became rare, even frightening. The hum meant work, but it also meant safety. a promise that the world was still moving. Without it, the dark would feel too empty. A curious record from a textile mill in Manchester mentions that some workers sang softly to themselves as they fell asleep in the dormitories. The songs were slow, circular, repetitive. Perhaps they were reminders of older lullabies, fragments of comfort kept alive amid the noise. You walk away from the lamps and smoke until the streets grow quieter. A faint breeze moves through the air, carrying the scent of rain and iron. The city murmurs behind you. For the first time in hours, you hear something else, the sound of your own heartbeat. It feels strange, unfamiliar, but grounding. You lie down near the edge of a small park, the grass damp beneath your hands. The light from the city glows faintly above the trees, a pale orange dome against the night. You can no longer see the stars, but you know they are there, waiting. The air feels heavy yet calm. Your eyelids close slowly. Sleep arrives not as peace but as mercy. It feels earned, fragile, and fleeting. The hum of the city fades into a dull echo, replaced by the rhythm of your breath. For a few hours, even in this restless world, you find stillness. In that quiet, you can almost hear what the machines have forgotten, the sound of true night, the silence that once held all of humanity. The century turns, and the world brightens again. The hum of factories is now joined by something new, electricity humming through wires, lighting up streets, homes, and every corner of the human world. You stand beneath a sky that glows faintly blue even at midnight, the stars pale and distant behind a veil of modern light. The darkness that once ruled the earth has retreated, and with it, the deep, natural sleep that once ruled the human body. Historians call this the Age of Illumination. It began with wonder. Cities celebrated the power to banish the night. In 1880, crowds gathered in New York and Paris to watch streets flare to life as electric bulbs replaced flame. The world gasped at the beauty of endless light. No one could have guessed that this victory would become one of humanity's quietest losses. Researchers studying historical records have traced how sleep patterns began to shift dramatically within just a few generations. With light available at all hours, people stayed awake longer, worked later, and began to ignore the rhythm of sunset and dawn. By the early 1900s, diaries and letters describe a strange new fatigue, an exhaustion that no amount of rest seemed to cure. A revealing set of experiments in the early 20th century found that electric light suppresses the body's natural production of melatonin, the hormone that tells the brain it is night. The body, confused by constant brightness, stopped trusting the sky. The human clock began to break. You look around and see how the new light changed everything. The glow of bulbs spills through windows, across sidewalks, into bedrooms. People gather in cafes at midnight, reading, talking, working. The night no longer feels mysterious or vast, it feels manageable, something to be conquered. And yet, beneath that confidence, you sense a quiet unrest. One forgotten letter from a factory electrician describes the paradox perfectly. He wrote that the city at night looked beautiful, almost holy, but that his own sleep had vanished. He said the lights followed him even when he closed his eyes, burning behind his eyelids like ghosts. Modern scholars often debate whether electricity truly marked the end of natural human rest, or simply accelerated a process already underway. Some argue that light gave freedom, making nights safer and more productive. Others see it as the moment humanity became untethered from its ancient rhythm. Both might be right. Progress always carries its own shadow. You walk through a neighborhood glowing with soft electric light. The lamps are steady, not flickering like flame. The shadows have sharp edges now, no longer gentle or alive. Windows gleam with cold white rectangles, the reflections of early televisions and machines. The quiet intimacy of firelight is gone. The street is not dangerous, but it feels lonely. In this bright night, no one seems to sleep. You pass open windows and hear typewriters clicking, radios murmuring. people laughing at hours when the body should be dreaming. The night has become a mirror of the day. A curious scientific observation from this period reveals how artificial light lengthened the average waking time by nearly 2 hours each day. At first it seemed a triumph: more time to live, more time to think. Yet soon, reports of fatigue, irritability, and sleeplessness filled medical journals. The modern world was awake, but not alive in the same way. You stop in front of a store window displaying the latest bulbs, their glass bodies shaped like teardrops. The sign reads, "Brighter, longer, better." The slogan feels strangely prophetic. Humanity had learned how to light every corner of existence, but forgotten how to rest in the dark. You imagine the Earth from above now, a sphere of gold and white lights spreading across continents, pulsing like a heartbeat. Satellites capture it, the planet glowing even when it should be sleeping. It is beautiful, but it looks tired. You sit on a low step beside a lamppost and look up at the sky. The light hides most of the stars, but a few still manage to pierce through. You focus on one, barely visible, and feel an ache of recognition. Somewhere deep inside you, a very old part of the mind still yearns for complete darkness. The kind of darkness that held silence, that let the brain reset, that taught the body to dream deeply. A modern neuroscientist once wrote that the human brain needs darkness as much as it needs air. Without it, dreams lose their depth, and the mind begins to forget how to repair itself. You think of that now, as the lamplight spills across your face. It is not dangerous, but it feels heavy. The light has weight. You close your eyes, but the glow remains behind your lids. The hum of the wires vibrates faintly through the air. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistles. The city never fully stops. You feel the pull of sleep, but it hesitates, uncertain. Eventually, fatigue wins. You lean back against the cold stone, your body folding into rest. The light is still there, pressing gently against you, but your mind drifts past it, searching for something older and quieter. In your dream, the lamps go out one by one, and the stars return, bright and endless. For a moment, the world feels whole again. The light that once felt like triumph now hums around you endlessly. It spills through every window, hums across wires, and pulses faintly in the night air. Humanity has entered the age of science and measurement. People no longer wonder why they sleep. They test it. Sleep has become a subject of laboratories, charts, and electrodes, a mystery dissected by machines. In the mid-20th century, researchers began wiring sleeping volunteers to strange devices that traced their dreams as lines on paper. This was the birth of modern sleep science, the moment when humanity started to look inward, asking what rest truly means. They discovered the stages of sleep, the cycles of dreams, the electric waves of the brain. The quiet mystery of night had turned into data. These early studies revealed something astonishing. During deep sleep, the body repairs itself, building strength, balancing hormones, and restoring memory. During dreaming, the mind untangles emotion, finding peace in its own stories. People began to understand what ancient instincts already knew, that sleep is not idleness but work of the gentlest kind. One finding from the 1,950 seconds changed everything. Scientists noticed that the brain was not still at all during dreaming. It flickered with activity, eyes moving rapidly beneath closed lids. They called it REM, rapid eye movement, and realized that dreaming was an active state of consciousness. The old belief that sleep was simple rest dissolved. The night became a landscape of motion again. A small but fascinating note from those early experiments tells of a man who was asked to signal from within his dream by moving his eyes in a pattern they could record. He succeeded. For the first time, someone had spoken from a dream without waking. That fragile connection between the conscious and unconscious world, once preserved in myths, now had proof. Yet, as science explored the night, The modern world kept forgetting how to live inside it. Artificial light continued to stretch days longer. Work hours grew unpredictable. Sleep was studied, yet increasingly neglected. People learned what it was for but forgot how to surrender to it. Knowledge replaced instinct, and comfort became a problem to be solved. Researchers in recent decades have shown that modern humans sleep nearly 2 hours less per night than those who lived only a century ago. The reasons are everywhere: electric light, noise, digital screens, constant communication. The body still carries the rhythm of the ancestors, but the world around it moves to a faster beat. A curious phrase began to appear in medical papers: sleep debt. As if rest had turned into currency, something borrowed, lost, and rarely repaid. The very word sounds mechanical, as though the softness of night had been replaced by the vocabulary of banks and machines. You can almost feel the irony of its science, explaining precisely what humans have been breaking with precision. You imagine standing inside one of those labs. The room glows faintly blue, cold and quiet. A person lies on a narrow bed, electrodes on their scalp, a machine beside them tracing waves of thought. Technicians whisper softly. They are measuring mystery, trying to catch the dream itself. Yet even surrounded by equipment, the sleeper's breathing still slows. Their body still drifts into the same ancient rhythm. The machines record, but they do not understand. Some researchers now argue that sleep's greatest purpose is emotional balance, not physical restoration. During dreams, they say, the brain processes fear and loss, organizing memory into story so the waking mind can continue. Others disagree, claiming that its true gift is cellular repair, that sleep is a medicine written into the blood. The arguments continue, but all agree on one truth: to sleep deeply is to heal. A lesser-known experiment in the 1,980 seconds kept volunteers awake for more than a week. Their speech faltered, their thoughts fractured, their emotions swung wildly. Some began to hallucinate. When they finally slept, their dreams arrived like floods, vivid, strange, full of light. The body and mind demanded balance, pulling them back toward the same darkness their ancestors once trusted without question. You walk outside now, leaving behind the hum of the lab and the white glow of machines. The night air feels heavy but real. Somewhere in the distance, you hear a faint wind moving through trees. The stars are still faint under the haze of electric light, but they are there. You think about how strange it is that humans have come so far only to circle back to what was always known. The perfect rest still requires the same things: darkness, quiet, rhythm, and trust. No invention can replace that. You sit down on a low bench and tilt your head back, closing your eyes. The noises of the modern world fade a little. The hum of a distant highway replaces the ocean. The flicker of a street lamp mimics the firelight, but the pattern is the same. The body begins to slow, breath deepens, and somewhere in the mind, the ancient lullaby of the earth begins again. Science may have mapped sleep, but its meaning still lies beyond measurement. It is the one place where every human, no matter the age or knowledge, meets the same silence. You breathe slowly and let that thought carry you. The hum of the city fades, replaced by the pulse of your own heart. The old rhythm, once nearly lost, stirs again inside you. The world may have forgotten the darkness, but the body never has. The city is quiet now. The noise that once filled the streets has softened into a low, distant hum. You walk away from the glowing lights, down a narrow road that leads into open land. The air grows cooler, darker, cleaner. Ahead of you lies a stretch of field and forest, untouched by the pulse of electricity. You keep walking until the sound of machines disappears completely, replaced by wind and water. When you finally stop, the sky above you is vast and unbroken. The stars are bright again, so bright that you can almost feel their light on your skin. The earth beneath your feet is solid and familiar. For the first time in what feels like centuries, the night belongs to the world and not to the clock. You sit down on the cool grass, take a slow breath, and realize how much the body remembers once it is given silence. Modern life has built comfort in layers, soft beds, thick curtains, screens that mimic sunrise, but somewhere beneath all that, your oldest self still waits for darkness, for wind, for soundless air. The body still carries memories older than any city. It remembers nights when people slept by rivers, by fire, under trees. It remembers safety as something shared, not owned. Recent studies in sleep science, the kind done far from cities, show that when people spend a few nights without artificial light, their sleep quickly deepens. They fall asleep sooner, wake gently, dream more vividly. The body finds its rhythm again, as if the knowledge of rest were written not in habit but in blood. A quiet fact rarely mentioned in textbooks is that people who live closest to nature today still experience the same patterns of sleep their ancestors did. They wake just before dawn, sleep deeply after dusk, and rarely lie awake at night. The difference is not in their biology but in their world. The night still speaks to them because they still listen. You close your eyes and let that thought sink in. The ground is cool beneath you. The air smells of wet earth and pine. Somewhere nearby, water moves over stones, its rhythm steady and low. Every sound belongs to the night, and for the first time in a long while, you do too. Many thinkers now question whether progress has cost humanity the ability to rest. Some say we have learned everything about sleep except how to surrender to it. Others believe the loss is temporary, that people will return to older rhythms once they remember how. Either way, the path forward may look much like the one behind it. Darkness was never an enemy, only a mirror. You open your eyes again and look at the stars. They seem closer now. The silence around you is not empty. It is full of breath, movement, small life. The night hums softly, like the sound of the earth dreaming. You breathe in that sound, letting it fill you. A faint breeze moves across the field, carrying the scent of grass and smoke. It brushes against your face, cool and gentle. You imagine prehistoric sleepers lying in this same air, their bodies wrapped in warmth, their minds drifting into the same slow current of peace. In that moment, you understand that the distance between you and them has never truly existed. You are part of the same story, carried forward by the same need to rest and be renewed. You lie down completely now, feeling the weight of your body sink into the ground. The stars blur slightly as your eyes grow heavy. The world around you becomes softer, quieter. You think of everything that has changed, fire to lamp, village to city, darkness to light, and everything that has not. The human heart still beats in rhythm with the turning earth. Sleep begins to rise through you like tide water, patient and sure. It moves through your limbs, across your chest, into your breathing. You let it take you. In this moment, there are no alarms, no wires, no blue screens glowing in the dark. There is only night, full and whole again, and the ancient peace that waits within it. You understand at last why prehistoric people slept better than modern ones. They did not conquer the night. They trusted it. You close your eyes completely. The stars remain behind your eyelids like small, steady fires. The wind settles. The silence deepens. Sleep comes easily now, deep and clean, like water returning to the sea. The night stretches out around you, wide and kind. The air has cooled further, wrapping your body in a soft hush. Every sound fades until only your breathing remains. You feel it move gently in and out, calm and unhurried. The muscles of your face loosen, your jaw unclenches, your shoulders sink into the ground. The stars above you seem to shimmer slower now, as though time itself has begun to soften. You imagine that each light in the sky is a quiet thought drifting away. You have followed this story across thousands of years, through firelight and moonlight, through cities and fields, through noise and silence. And now, you have come back to where it all began, the stillness that existed before the first spark, before the first wall, before the first word for sleep. You are lying in the same world your ancestors once trusted completely. The same air fills your lungs, The same earth holds your weight. Every heartbeat echoes the rhythm of the planet turning beneath you. The night is no longer something to resist, it is something to belong to. Let your thoughts drift now, soft as dust in a warm breeze. There is nowhere to go, nothing left to do. The world is safe in its turning, and you are safe in its care. The quiet folds around you like a blanket, cool and endless. In the space between one breath and the next, the story fades. What remains is silence, deeper than words, older than time. You are home again, resting in the dark that made you. Sleep well,